Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Women's Table. Today, having a seat at the table, I am joined once again by author and screenwriter Jane L. Fitzpatrick, who is also an old friend. Jane joined me in 2023, where we talked about her international award-winning screenplay on the life of Sacajawea. Today, we'll dive into one of her magical children's books, Crabtree, The Lost Kids of Borealonon, a story that speaks to both children and adults about courage, family, and the power of storytelling. My name is Tina de Keyzer. Welcome to the Women's Table. Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of the Women's Table. Every guest who joins us is very special. But today's guest is very special to me because Jane L. Fitzpatrick, she is not only an award-winning writer, but she's also an old friend. She was on the show 2 years ago where we talked about Sacajawea, the story of a young girl from the Shoshone tribe who in the early 1800s was taken from her family by Hidatsa warriors. Jane wrote a screenplay about Sacagawea's life, one that has since then won several international awards. So today I am delighted to welcome her back to talk about something very different but just as powerful. One of her children's books, Crabtree, The Lost Kids of Borealonon. That is the correct pronunciation, I hope. A magical tale that speaks to both children and adults as well. So, Jane, welcome back. It's so wonderful to have you here again.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here. Thanks so much.
Okay, so as I mentioned, this is officially a children's book. But as an adult reader, I was completely swept away by the story. I could not put it down. I absolutely loved it. Let me briefly introduce our listeners to the world of the book. And Jane, please feel free to jump in at any point if you'd like to add or correct anything. Is that okay with you?
Of course, yes.
Okay. So here we go again. The Lost Kids of Borealonon tells the story of Sam and his twin sister Melinda, who relocate with their family from Charleston, West Virginia to the small and peculiar Nugget City in Washington state. Sam, a teenager, is angry for moving and leaving everything familiar, his friends, routines, and identity. And Mel is more open to the move to the new environment. Upon arrival in the new city, they uncover a book written by their enigmatic uncle Crabtree, once a famous children's author with a sinister past. Then they find themselves drawn into a hidden world in the underground town of Borealonon. Children have turned into stone by a curse of Crabtree's magic, and only Sam and Mel, as his descendants, can break the curse. So, what follows is a journey, not just through a forgotten world, but into the heart of a family, fear, storytelling, and choice. What do you think of my summary?
Very good. Perfect. Can I borrow that?
Of course. Yeah. So, Jane, storytelling and the idea that words carry power, both to heal and to harm, are central in this book.
Yes.
The book itself is a living magical object. So, what inspired you to explore this duality of storytelling, its light and its shadow?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the idea of the book, I was taking children's literature classes back in 1988. Mm-hmm. And one of the assignments was to write a children's book that had layers of storyline, that crossed over. And it was really difficult because I had never done that before back then. But I just started it and I just kept writing. And one of the things that really affected this story was when my brother and I were little, my grandparents had a lake cabin, and we would go there all the time with my cousins. It was just a wonderful time. On the other side of the lake, though, it was all trees, and we
Mhm.
were curious about what's over there. And our parents told us, "Well, don't go across the lake. The lake's a very deep lake. We don't want you to go across." Well, we're kids, and we thought, we could just go over there and come back and nobody, know.
Boom.
And so we got in my grandpa's flat bottom boat and we rode that thing the whole way across the lake. And
Yeah.
what we found on the other side there was no beach or anything. The trees came right down to the water. So we
Oh.
had, you know, duck underneath the trees branches and grab on and pull ourselves up, and it was quite an adventure. But what was really cool was there were absolutely no houses or anything around, but it went straight up like a hill, and we climbed that hill up to what we could see through the branches of the trees was a cabin, an old
Oh.
cabin.
Oh my.
And now, nothing was gonna stop us. Well, we went into the cabin, and it was like another world. There were dishes in the sink that had been there for ages, that were
Mhm.
still that were more never washed. There were dishes in the sink. There was clothes everywhere. There were newspapers and books, and the most incredible thing were the family photo albums of the people who lived there. And we could tell that people had left very quickly and
Yeah.
left everything behind.
Everything. Yeah.
And of course, my brother when he took one of the books, the photo books back home, he wanted to show my parents, not realizing that would give us away that we had
Yeah.
gone. So, like
Oh my.
but, anyway, with that whole experience and as we, paddled back across the lake, it was getting dark. So that added to the intrigue of it. So as I'm
Yeah.
writing the story, I'm I find myself incorporating into this story that I'm writing
Yeah.
this experience. And it
Yeah.
really did impact it because, from what actually was happening with the cabin, but actually my feelings. I was scared. I was
Yeah.
scared there in that cabin. What if they came back,
Oh my.
And
Yeah.
so I just try to incorporate in there my feelings into the characters. And then, Mel, created her to be kind of the opposite of her brother.
Mhm.
And she was the bookworm, the one who
Yeah.
knew thing, and he was the little rebellious kind
Yeah.
of character
Yeah.
that, that was angry. And so, it evolved into this story. I had put that book away and brought it out a few, like, maybe 5 or so years ago, and I completely rewrote it because I between 1988 and now, I myself the spirituality that I have learned over my
Yeah.
path with Sacajawea and all that, uh, I completely didn't have it in it, the book, because it wasn't there in me. So I took that book and realized that there was some very spiritual,
Yeah.
moments in the book, and in fact, even just the idea of time travel, going to another time period, and, the people having uh, a sense of, wonder about it, and how this old man and the caretaker, the guy that they follow,
Yeah.
his character and how it evolves from being a young man to an old man
Yep.
in the whole
Yeah.
scheme of this
Yeah.
one story, and his words of wisdom to them, and then, of course, the darkness of Crabtree and, what they learn in the end, and the mystery of it that I won't give away the
No,
end
of course we won't.
'cause
Of
it does have a
course.
mystery to it. Um,
Yeah.
so, that really is what created this story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So the relationship between Sam and Mel is really central, right? Because
mhm,
they go on
yeah,
this journey together, and then everything happens. As you mentioned, we're not going to give anything away, but it gets very tense and exciting, and so they really depend on each other. They rely on each other.
yes, they do, and they learn something, and they learn that though they're very different, he learns that he loves his
Yeah.
sister,
Yeah.
and she learns that she loves her brother, and that is one of the things that happens in the story. The reason I named it Borealonon,
Mm-hmm.
uh, is because it opened up a way for her, Mel, to be able to talk about what she knows about the aurora borealis, and when they entered Borealonon, it was a crystals
Yeah.
ball in this
Yeah.
cave, and
Yeah.
light from a hole above that
Yeah.
shimmered down
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
twinkled all around them, and so that's why I named it Borealonon, because I wanted it to be something very special where, people can realize that, it's a unique we want to do it into a movie, so in the
Yeah.
movie, it was very
Really.
unique way to show that.
Yeah. So another movie is coming up.
Well, I was gonna tell you about it, yes. I'm
Yeah.
in the process right now of writing this into a script,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if it'll be animation. I'm hoping that it'll be live action because I feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it could really take us on a mystical
Absolutely.
journey,
Yeah.
uh, for an audience, so
Yeah.
I'm
Which.
to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's all about family, right? Because
Mhm.
Crabtree is an uncle,
Yeah.
and but he's not only a villain because he wrote two endings, right, in the book.
Mhm. He
Yeah,
knows he knows what's right. He knows
yeah.
what's but,
He still
uh
did the wrong thing.
mhm, yeah. That's why this is called the Crabtree series.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be another book.
Ah,
I'm hoping to have 2 more books.
about Sam and Melinda as well.
Mm?
So there will be
Then
a sequel.
yes. Yeah, the next one will be when they graduate from high school,
Mm-hmm.
and the next one will be when they come home from college. And there will be answers in the 3rd book,
Uh-huh.
to Crabtree and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what really got to me in this book is because we talked before we start the recording about the light and the darkness.
Mm,
And this is also about the light and the darkness and doing what's wrong or right, not giving in to fear. Because Sam and Melinda, they could have left because they were scared,
uh-huh.
but they wanted to do the right thing.
Yes. Mhm.
So this is also a story about resilience and
That's right.
going on, moving on, even if you're afraid of the outcome. So it's also
Ye
kind
That's
of,
right.
yeah, being a hero, even if it means you're a scared hero.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And also about the town and how when they first when they were walking through the town, they were all older people, no
Yeah,
children, and they were sad and they were,
yeah,
e e they were they were lost.
yeah,
And what the contrast shows us in the time travel is that a town vibrant with children and young, old, working and loving together is where we are happy. us
Mhm.
in our life.
Mhm.
That's what we need in a community. And so community was one of the things as well.
Yeah.
The love, the older man that,
Yeah.
he the one that lost his daughter,
Yeah.
his love for his daughter was important to the story as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Because you just mentioned about the cabin and your vacation with your grandparents, but this is really one hell of a magical story. So where did all these magical ideas come from? Did they just you just went and sat on your desk and you started typing or writing?
yeah,
You did.
I was writing, and then I'm thinking, "Okay, I need something here that would what would I do? What do I," and so then you write it, and then you go back and you change things to bring it to that place where this would happen now, and it was a process. To begin with, I couldn't have told you how this story was going to happen,
And yeah,
unfold. It just unfolded. It
yeah,
and the characters, it's important to have characters that open the door for
yeah,
these wonders to come through. And if you've got vibrant characters, then that will happen, you know?
yeah,
And also the idea of, the doves and
yeah,
climb the children and climbing into these tiny spaces and just going for it and diving down the hole
yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah.
I know people don't know what I'm talking about, but they look it up. But I
So
don't know, it just all evolved in my brain, and I I could see it. I could see it happening, playing out,
me too.
before me, and um, I was so grateful when it was finished. I just sort of I was just so grateful
Yeah.
that I felt like it had taken on its own thing, and it was actually saying something
Mhm.
to people, not just children, but
No,
adults.
exactly, because that's my next question. What do you think makes this children's book different from other children books? Because I love to read, but this is actually a children's book, and I couldn't put it away. Um, so maybe that's the child in me that's still left somewhere inside me. But
It
what do you think is the difference?
I wanted to make the children not childish,
Ah,
if you know what I mean.
mhm. Yeah.
I wanted them to be thinking, experimenting, exploring, and bringing in the adults too into the storyline,
Mhm.
and also the idea that these children were lost,
Mhm.
and how how would that affect an adult? If you were the parent of a child that was lost, I mean, you would be
Yeah.
striving to find a way, you know? And I guess that appeals to a wide audience, age-wise. So it's funny because I've had a few people tell me that, a couple other people that read the book,
Yeah.
adults, that
Yeah.
said the story was not child it
Mm.
was something that they could watch, and they enjoyed it and
Yeah.
look at, and read, so
Yeah. Because at one point, Crabtree is having a conversation with Sam, and then his madness is a bit more layered, right? Because you think this is one mad idiot, but he truly believes that he's sacrificing the children by freezing them in time. He really
Mhm.
thinks, at least that's my humble opinion, that he's
Yeah.
doing something good.
Mhm.
Do you agree?
He's very confused about
Yeah,
that's why he wrote 2 endings to this
yeah,
story,
yeah,
and the ending that we don't find out about, his ending is, dark and
yeah,
final,
Yeah.
but it's true, he's very angry, and then the fire, there's a
Yeah.
fire, and then he loses it, and, um, but they know what they have to do.
Yeah.
They know, and they do it, they're not afraid to do it, and so I think he really actually I had a feeling when I was writing this, because in the very end, they see the Bigfoot, and they see Crabtree
Mhm.
lurking there. Why? We wanna know why. Because he wrote
Yeah. 2
good
endings.
ending,
Yeah.
you know? And so but it's fleeting, because then he's off and, laughing his evil laugh. But and it begs to have more story about that,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
because and there is. So,
But
yeah.
isn't this story not also about making choices?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Sam and Mel, they are choosing because he offers them a way out, and they are like, "No, we're leaving. We're taking the children with us." And but he chooses to stay behind.
Yes, and I
So
think
he,
that the question is that I always thought about this, and I have it in on the website, who will write the chapters of your life?
yeah,
Who? Is it going to be you, or is it going to
hmm,
be someone else? It's so important for kids
yeah,
and
yeah,
adults
yeah,
to realize that when you follow people, when you follow something and you don't really think about if you if you should or not, or what you really think, you just follow them and you let them persuade you and do things. And ultimately they are writing the chapters of your life, and you're letting them. So
yeah,
that is the question. Who is writing the
yeah,
chapters of are you? And they did, the kids. They wrote the
yeah,
chapter. They took the road that was toward the light, toward good, to
yeah,
finding a way through and being successful with the children.
yeah. Wow. you, you've written several children's books.
Mhm. Yes.
Um, yeah, and as you just mentioned, this book has already also been read by other adults.
We
Now,
have, reviews on the website under crabtreeseries.com, and under reviews tabs, there's reviews there from different
yeah,
people.
yeah. So we
Hope
talked
you'll
about,
write one.
yes, of course I will. Of course I will. Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to our conversation 2 years ago. Sacajawea. So from Sacajawea to Borealonon. Uh, so you've written this historical script about
Mm,
this real person.
yes.
Do you find similarities in how you approach the story of Sacagawea and the story of Sammy and Melinda?
Well, when I first started writing Sacagawea, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I think I mentioned this in our talk before, that, I wrote a timeline on the wall, put places that she was talked about in the journals, and then I backed up from there to write a scene. Well, the scene thing, I do that with all my writing now, and I guess it was because of that experience originally, that it helps me focus on, you know, the arc of the storyline and where I need to go with it. What do I want to do at the climax of it? What do I want to do at the ending of it? And so that's where I started. And so the similarities in that way, was directing myself in this very open-ended structure in the beginning. But it
Yeah.
helps. to fill in the blanks, and you can segment it into, as you know where you're going. I want this to be the climax. Then it works out how you fill that in. And so all my stories are kind of like that. My children's book, The Grass Maiden Sacajawea, is different because it's more just about the history, her telling the history that she's doing. It's not really a fictional. It's not a fictional account like Crabtree. It's a fictional characters, fictional everything. So it's a little bit different. But I have a script called Key Mama's Wings, and it is a movie that starts way with a timeline, and it's a fictional person, but it's about racism and discrimination and in this family. And I want to do that in a movie too. So,
Okay.
but all the stories kind of have the same theme.
Yeah.
Even with Sacajawea, with the dark and the light and spirit, so does Crabtree, dark and light and spirit.
Yeah.
And so does Kimama's Wings. And I love to bring that in different stories, because we see that it's all the same. The light and the dark and the spirit and the journey, the path, is the same in everything. And it's all about love. It ends up being the main thing of it is love. Love for all. Love for each other. Love for yourself. I want people to realize that they are here to love, to be loved, and to love others.
Yeah.
It's a theme that runs through everything that I write.
Why is that so important to you, to send out this message into the world that love is the best thing? Why is it so important to you? Because I agree,
Mm-hmm.
but why is this important to Jane?
Because I know I told you this in my other interview, I went down to LA wanting to get my script, Sacajawea, made into a movie, and it ended up being a really a spiritual journey for me, because I knew that I didn't have the truth in my life. There was more. There was more about what we're called to be in this lifetime, on this journey we walk. And one of the things that I learned, and I put it into my book, and Embrace series, the Awakening book, that we are the love that we hold is not in our mind. The love that I'm talking about. The love that I'm talking about is eternal. It is infinite. It is, and when we believe that, and we get rid of all of the boxes that, the illusions, that boxes that we build around our heart, when we get rid of that, and we come to a place where, and for me, I was at the edge of a cliff, and it was dark, and I had this vision, and I was supposed to take a step. I had to take a step. And the only way for me to take a step was to know that where I was stepping was love, not the darkness. And so it became apparent to me that though I'm a human being and I make mistakes, but the purpose of my life, of all of our lives, I believe, is to embrace the love of the universe, the love of that is infinite. That's all there is. That's all there is. And when we make it something else, when we stay in our minds and look at this world from the opinions of others, what we read about in something, or the news, or whatever it might be. But the most powerful thing there is loving, and you can prove it every day. If you just walk down the street and you reach out and you love someone, you do something for them, you help a child, you your life changes as you realize what could be better? What more is there?
Yeah.
And so I felt like a way that I could, as a writer, incorporate this journey, this belief that I have, that 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 was that came through my experience excuse me, that came through my experience in LA, was that love, and I can incorporate it into all my stories. And I just don't see any other thing that I would wanna put in these stories, but you can use the dark to push you forward into this.
Yeah, I get it. So, because this is the reason why I just mentioned that Crabtree chose to stay behind in the dark, and Sammy and Melinda, they chose the way out. They chose the light,
Yeah.
even if they knew that the road to the light was going to be very hard. So, so that's a choice. So, but in this today's world, where there are so many different opinions and people are not always friendly towards each other, how can people decide to choose the light and not stay behind in the darkness?
I think that, of course, everyone has a path that they're traveling from the moment they take their first breath, well, even before in the womb. And many people have obstacles just from childhood, the way they were treated, experiences that happened to them as a kid. But one time I was talking with a Native American, and he was telling me about a thing that they do, a spiritual exercise that they do, which is, if you think about an experience that you had when you were a child, and you can visualize you walking on the in front of where you're doing that whatever that is that you did or that happened. And you visualize it so much you could see yourself in the middle of what's happening to you as a child, this horrible thing. And then you imagine yourself as an adult standing there with your childhood persona. And you reach out your arm and you touch that child. In your vision, you're seeing this. And you say, it's okay. We grow up. We find love. We're happy. And what happens is it dispels that pain that you're experiencing now, even as an adult, the things that come with you that you may not even know what it is, where, that you don't even know why you hang on to things depending on your age when it happened. And so I feel like people on their journey, on their path, they come upon things that they can make a choice, and it's all about our choices.
Yeah.
For me, it was, I had a virtually simple life as a child, a good life as a child. But when I was in my 20s, I had a terrible divorce and a hurtful situation. And my life just kept crashing down. And I know that changed me. I was hurting. I didn't realize I was still carrying that hurt for years. After I met my husband that I have now, we've been married almost 45 years. And he was such a wonderful man when he met me. He was patient with me as I dealt through these issues.
Yeah.
And through our relationship, and also our relationship in the religion that we were, we realized that I realized that, and he realized at the same time, but we didn't do it together. It was separate, but we didn't come to these revelations together. I realized that I wanted to know the truth. There's truth. There is truth. And it's not through the mouth of someone else saying this is the truth or that's the truth. It might be truth, but that's not where you should get it. You should get the truth through your own search, your own walk.
Exactly.
your own being brave and courageous to love someone, to do something for someone, to help someone. And from that, it changes you.
Yeah. But aren't we all just human? I mean, don't we
Yes.
all need validation? Am I doing this right? Yeah.
We do, and it's like you want to put your spirit first, then your mind and your body. You wanna put in that order, but many
Yeah.
times you flip it the other way, the body, mind, spirit first.
Yeah.
I have to have, I
Yeah.
need this, or
Yeah.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
or something mad at you and you strike out. Everybody does this, we're human. But when you have that moment, you take that moment to reflect and realize, "Wait a minute. I am love. I am love. This is what I want in my life." And you come back to that place and you
Mhm.
keep walking. And it's a forward and
Yeah.
backward,
Yeah.
light and dark, that's life, but that's the
Yeah.
beauty of it.
Yeah.
And, so it's been that journey for me, and I just feel so grateful, thankful for all the lessons learned, for the lessons that will be learned,
Yeah.
and I just pray that some of that can come through these stories that are written.
Yeah. You really are a storyteller. Back to the book.
Yes. Swayed away here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As the story comes to an end, there is this powerful sense of healing.
Mhm.
But it's hard won. That's what I just said, because Sam and Melinda, they choose the light, but the road ahead is very hard. So this made me reflect on what kind of imprint a book like this leaves on its readers, especially across the different ages, because it's actually a children's book, but it's also read by adults. So what do you think the difference will be on the imprint that leaves it on its readers? Like if a child, a 13-year-old child reads the book, or a 17-year-old teenager reads the book.
I think that, one of the things that I thought of, it was always hard. I know for me, I moved a lot as a kid, and I hope that a child would be able to realize that it's okay to have these feelings. My hope is that a child would think that it's okay to have these feelings about being angry,
Yeah.
about being mad at your parents. The book shows that the parents love them anyway.
Yeah.
Does not affect him. But that's a real difficulty for a child to move away from their friends, and we
Yeah.
were addressed it really the book addresses it. Why what he would miss, his sports, the place where they used to go hang out and, all that, and his friends. So I think a child would capture that. The first page of it says, "I don't like my parents doing this to me," something like that.
Yeah.
The very
Yeah.
first page. And I think that grabs a 13-year-old kid that's
Yeah.
had to move or is gonna have to move. That's that, and then also just the fact that we understand that some kids are very smart and they love information and books just
Yeah.
like Mel,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the star of the show is just a regular kid. He does have great respect for his sister.
Yeah.
He won't say it, but he ultimately does. And, the parents in the end, I think an older person would enjoy the mystery
Mhm.
of this and, the character of Crabtree and how the Bigfoot is he has a guide. They have a guide and it's somebody that's in their court, through this whole
Yeah.
convoluted cave system. And I think that would be exciting, even no matter what your age is. And it's a transition that spans through this story. And in the very end, and we can't tell the ending, but
No.
in the very how the father
Yeah.
understands. And I really feel that, some people, especially people that have kids,
Yeah.
would like adults to have children. One of the people that read it, he has 2 daughters around the age group, and he said that he could he couldn't stop reading it,
No.
um, and he enjoyed it even as an adult, but
Yeah.
I probably because he has kids the age of those kids, and
Yeah.
that might made it a difference in his interest too.
Yeah.
So,
So, okay. Is there a specific feeling that you hope that stays with the readers after they finish the book? Because if I look at myself when I ended the book and I was like, okay, like this, but I was also in awe. I was like because every now there were not all the answers, but now you say that there will be at least 2 sequels. But I was like, "Oh my, this was awesome." This was the feeling that everything, the magic, I cannot explain it, but this feeling I had after finishing the book was like, this is so amazing. It was okay.
it was okay because you felt like there was something more and because he had the answers, you
Yeah.
know?
The ending was satisfying,
Yeah, yeah.
even if not every question was answered. So, what would you hope? What feeling do you hope that stays with a reader after they finish the book? They put it aside. I have your book here, and they read the last page and they put it away, and they feel like,
I think I think they would feel maybe just a little as a kid, maybe they would just feel like they just the mystery of it, because they were a kid would feel different than an adult, I think. A kid would feel like it was an adventure. It was a real, mystery of and the time travel and all. They would look at the elements of it,
mm-hmm,
if it's viewpoint, and they realized that they really were moved through the story.
mm-hmm,
They kept
mm-hmm,
reading. They got to the end. An adult might look at it as a time of reflection back to a child's experiences and how they might have felt or must have felt at one time in their life about the mystery of things and their
yeah,
imagination, like
yeah,
I did when I went to that old house.
yeah,
I
yeah,
felt now, but reflecting back on that time, it was a
yes,
mystery. It was a magical time
yeah,
of wondering and imagining, "Where are these people? Where did they go?
yeah,
Why did they leave?" "Who are these
yeah,
people? These
yeah,
pictures?" And
yeah,
so, an adult might reflect back to a childhood time, whereas a child would reflect in their time
yeah,
and all the adventures within that story. Something
yeah.
like that, maybe, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, okay. At the end of every episode, I always like to ask my guests for a piece of advice. So, so today I would like to ask you this. So, what is your advice for those of us and adults, especially, who may have lost touch with a childlike sense of magic? They lost their imagination and believe in the extraordinary because maybe there are some adults who read the book and were like, okay, well, this is children's book, whatever. So they lost their the magic, the imagination. They're not in Neverland anymore. They left Neverland. So what would you like to say?
For an
Yeah,
adult?
yeah,
Okay. I think that we do that. In our world, it's where everything's so serious, and there's overload of things, and sometimes even there's the emotion of just life and having to deal with things in life. So I think in this story, and what I would ask, what I would recommend that people do is think of something that you hold from your childhood that you had great feelings about. You might, maybe walk barefoot at the beach in the water, or, jump into a swimming hole somewhere and just do it. Just go for
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And I think that the wonderment of not being bound by all these rules, and, you're supposed to act like this when you're an adult, you're supposed to, be that way.
yeah, yeah,
Take a little liberty and relax. Go for a walk, hug a tree, pick up a leaf and
yeah,
put it in your pocket.
yeah,
Find a rock shaped like a heart. Look at the clouds. See the pictures that
yeah,
the universe paints for you.
yeah.
Cloud formations that are just for you. These are connections to the person that you always are, but
Mhm.
free of these things that draw us away from being a
Yeah,
child at heart. So that's what I would recommend.
yeah. Because I truly believe that the child, the inner child that believes in magic, is still somewhere in there.
Yeah,
It
I
just
do.
needs, yeah, it just needs to come out. Yeah. So, uh,
And maybe that's why in the book, that Crabtree wrote 2 endings, because he could
yeah,
see both sides. He could see both the child view and this view that an adult his kind of adult would have.
yeah,
And so, it's kind of the same thing. I didn't think about that till now, but
yeah. For our listeners, if they want to buy your book, where can they
yes.
get it?
They can get it on Amazon.com,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's easier just to put there's so many books on Amazon, put Jane
Yeah.
L. Patrick in, and it'll show the book there, or just, Crabtree, Lost Kids of Borealonon. And that there, and then also on our store, we have an online store,
Mhm.
which is spiritwind.shop, and the book is in there as well, and other products that go along with Crabtree, a shirt, a little mug,
Oh,
things like
oh,
that. Yes,
okay,
yes, we
okay.
have
I'm
that.
go.
So that's,
I'm go.
that's, spiritwind.shop.
Yeah, and you ship abroad as well?
Yeah, we do. We
Yeah.
do. Yep. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Mm,
All over. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Okay. Jane,
yes.
thank you so
Well, thank
much.
you so much.
Yeah, yeah. I
Wonderful.
really love the book.
Thank you.
It's a story that lingers. It's full of wonder and courage and magic. And I wanted to know, it was kind of because I wanted to know the end. I wanted to know how the book ended. And I couldn't stop reading. But when I finished the book, it was also with a little bit of sadness because
Mhm.
I, I had finished the book. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't wanna make you sad.
So now I know that there will be a sequel.
Yes. Yep.
I'm really looking forward to the sequel.
Oh, thank
Um, okay, so I truly believe that somewhere along the way, as we grow up, many of us lose the ability or the permission, as we just talked about,
Mhm.
to believe in things we cannot see.
Yes.
Books like yours are such a wonderful reminder that wonder and magic and that little child within she or he is still somewhere.
Mhm.
I personally I love children's books and films. They offer not only an escape, but also some sort of homecoming, a break from everyday struggles, which we all need from time to time.
Yeah, right.
Just like you mentioned. So, to all of our listeners, I hope this conversation invites you to rediscover a little magic, whether that's through storytelling, imagination, or simply by daring to believe again. And to all our listeners, go to Amazon.com and buy the book.
Yes, please. Thank you. Well, that's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you. Thank you, Jane. Thank you so much, Jane, for being here today. It is always wonderful to talk to you. You are so dear to my heart. I truly hope our listeners will feel as inspired by this conversation as I did. And to everyone listening, may you reconnect with that inner child who is still in there somewhere. I know he or she is. And who still believes in magic and wonder and the power of a good story to change the world, even just a little. Thank you all for listening. And if you feel this episode might inspire someone else, please feel free to share it. Don't forget to follow me and subscribe on all the usual platforms, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you like to listen. My name is Tina de Keyzer, and this is the Women's Table.